Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Creepy Kentuckian here with.
I guess I'm the B plan.
You shouldn't be guessing at this point, buddy.
I think I'm the A plan, but
No. Well, when it comes to your show, you are the A plan. Introduce yourself on the Two Against podcast as the A plan, and then whenever you're doing dead pit stuff, you're the B plan.
well, I guess Aaron is the A plan.
I guess.
B.
So we're at it again, another week of CREEPSHOW. This one is episode 4 from season 1. And Steve, this is the one that you had not seen during the initial run. You just checked it out because evidently you wanted to quit after you saw the man in the suitcase last week.
I just kind of got with other things and kind of forgot all about it.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, this is one that I enjoyed this one too. I actually thought this was pretty decent. Both episodes were good enough. So, starting out, the first one is called The Companion. The man in the episode, his wife passes away, and he's just really, really bored. So he decides to make himself a scarecrow. And he took. I don't know. Like you, I mean, he was working on a farm, I guess, so he needed a scarecrow to protect his crops. But in the story, there is like a nerdy kid that's running from a bully, and he happens to. Was it his brother?
I'm thinking it was his brother.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. But the beginning of it, I had a good chuckle. You had the gratuitous fat kid with candy bars. That was in the beginning of it. I appreciate that. And it's a throwback to Horace from the Monster Squad. Ain't nothing wrong with fat kids eating candy bars. But anyway, like as the show goes on, it kind of tells the story of the farmer and his loneliness. It's kind of a grim tale. And of course, the scarecrow comes to life and is murderous.
Mm-hmm. He makes it, and he's sitting on the porch with it or something, keep him company and all that, and it's a
makes him iced tea and fixing scrambled eggs in the morning and stuff like that. But the scarecrow, I guess.
You can't kill Girl Scouts, apparently, in that part of the country.
He becomes very protective of the farmer.
Yes.
And murders a Girl Scout trying to hawk her bullshit cookies.
Yep.
So, yeah. And the farmer witnesses this and attempts to take out the scarecrow, which he fails at doing that, and he kills himself as well. And then the nerdy kid comes across the rotted corpse of the farmer, as he is also the scarecrow. Of course, you can't kill a scarecrow, right? No. If history tells us anything, scarecrows, they're immortal. They're going to live forever. They're like Billy Joe Shaver.
Unless there's a fire.
Yeah, that could take out a scarecrow or two. What is it with? I mean, I'm not complaining. I liked the episode. It was good enough, but like all of the fascinations with killer scarecrows. Like, what was the first killer scarecrow movie? Would it have been Dark Knight of the Scarecrow back in the day?
Probably. I guess if you don't count Wizard of Oz, but that's the only other one I could think of before that.
Well, that scarecrow's not a killer, though.
Yeah. It comes alive, but yeah. So, yeah.
Did you ever see speaking of which, you mentioned the Wizard of Oz. I had this on my mind. The scene in the Wizard of Oz where the scarecrow has a pistol is a gun. Have you never noticed that?
Not offhand, no.
Yeah, that's one of those urban like legends. It's actually true. There is a scene in the movie where the scarecrow has a pistol and he's holding it. I think, which scene was it? It was like, I think it was when they're in the forest and they come across the Cowardly Lion for the first time or something like that, maybe. I don't know. that's a weird little ditty there for you. But the Companion was directed again by David Bruckner, who we were talking about last week. He did The Signal and an episode in VHS. And this is a story, Steve. I don't know if you know this, that was written by Joe Lansdale, who did Bubba Hotep back in the day. Very underrated Don Coscarelli flick.
Yeah, I don't know, it just seemed like it had a lot of atmosphere and kind of like a little fairy tale kind of story.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed it, though. I mean, both episodes were pretty good. The Companion was definitely my favorite of the two.
Yeah.
But yeah, it had some good atmosphere in it, and it's a fun little. It's kind of similar to the story in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark as well. You know, wasn't the Scarecrow in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark? Wasn't his name Harold?
I can't recall. I really haven't watched it. I've seen parts of it, but not watched the whole thing.
Well, I'm talking about the story, though. The story was...
Oh, I don't know if that's after my time. I never read any of those.
Oh, yeah. You would have been about 37 when those come out, so...
Yeah. I was living life.
But seriously, though, those books are... I think they're interesting for anybody. The artwork itself's creepy, so... You wouldn't find children books today with artwork like that. I'll just say that.
Nah.
Anyway, continuing on, Lydia Layne's Better Half, next episode. This one was very, very much like a Tales from the Dark Side episode, I thought. Because you could tell like they were working with like a very, very limited budget on this episode here. Because most of it took place in an elevator. But the story of this one is Lydia Layne is, of course, a lesbian Lydia Layne. And the promotion at work, she's like the boss at work. She's one of the shot callers at her firm or wherever she works. And it was her girlfriend, and the promotion was between her girlfriend and another dude. And she picks the dude because, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
And her girlfriend was pissed off about it. They had arguments, all that good stuff, and accidentally, Lydia Layne, baby, she chops the other better half down with the edge of her hand.
And some type of award.
Yeah.
She just fell over, and that award went. She must have had soft skull because it just kind of went all the way in.
Yeah, it penetrated her full brain, and 100% in her head. And this happens probably within the first 3 minutes of the episode. So the rest of the episode is her trying to dispose of the body, and I guess chaos ensues along the way. We'll just say that. But this episode here, I looked up the directors of all these episodes just to see. Roxanne Benjamin was the name of and she is an actress turned director, and also worked on one of your favorite shows, Steve, Riverdale.
Nah, I haven't seen it.
You love watching.
No.
So, what do you think of Lydia Layne's Better Half?
Well, I mean, you had Tricia Halford was in it. She plays Lydia Layne, who was the Cylon in Battlestar Galactica. She was looking hot in that. It was all right. It was a very quick. It seemed like the episode was very, very paced very quickly. A lot of these episodes, if you think, I mean, they just don't have any filler, which is really good. I mean, you really can't have filler when you have 20 minutes or so. So it was a very quick-paced show, and I don't know. It just seemed kind of weird, the supernatural part of it, because I don't understand where that came from. The super. It just seemed like it came out of nowhere. But other than that, I guess it was all right.
Yeah, I mean, it was enjoyable for what it was. Yeah, and the thing is, like I think we've said this on every episode of the reviews that we've done here. These shows are like 44 minutes long, without commercials, and it doesn't. Even the worst of the episodes, it doesn't. It's not long enough to really be boring. So, and they've had some bad episodes, I think, in this season, but I mean, overall, from what I've seen, most of the time, it's at least watchable. It's pretty good. You know, I thought this episode was probably one of the best episodes of the whole season. You know,
Yeah, so far.
combined with so far. So we have two more for this season, and they're already where they were working on season two. I don't know how much of that they had filmed before all this bullshit, coronavirus come along, but they did have season two planned for this fall, Steve, on Shudder.
Shudder.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that is it for CREEPSHOW episode 4, season 1. So we've got two more. How you like me now?
Yeah. Slap nuts.
So that is it. We will see you guys for episode 5 next week sometime. How's that sound?
Sounds like a plan.
All right. So you be working with your freaks and peaks, Steve?
Yes.
And we'll see you in the Red Room of Doom next week.
Peace.
Later, DEADPIT.
.com.